So, what is the dark night of the soul, and what does it mean for spiritual people? Well, if you'd like to find out, then you're in the right place. Welcome to Between Views. I'm your host, Alec Koski. This podcast aims to cast light on and connect you with inspirational people, identify them as potential mentors in your journey, and share their wisdom with the world. In this episode, we converse with Nashelly Alba for part 4 of our interview on spirituality. We really hope you've enjoyed it. Before we get started, I'd just like to say thank you to our newest supporter on Buy Me a Coffee, Caballita. It's really awesome when people are getting value out of this, and buying us a coffee is a really cool way to show it, because I drink a lot of that stuff. And the other thing as well is I have really been enjoying the answers that you guys have been giving on Instagram to the question of the day. So to all the people who are getting involved, you know who you are. Thank you so much for joining and being part of our community. You are making this such a nice place to be. Keep listening. Thank you so much. Hope you enjoy this final part of our interview with Nashelly Alba. We were just having a conversation for a long time about spirituality. We go into the topic and we haven't left, and that's perfectly fine. And in fact, we're going to stay on that topic for a little while longer. The question that I'd love to re-enter with was what or who, or, you know, what were the circumstances that made you lean more towards a spiritual outlook on life?
You know, for me, was a point that I kind of believe about these kind of things, because I was lucky enough that my mom was, she was studying metaphysics when I was a kid. So I remember, like, when, for example, I have a headache, she will teach me how to meditate. Although in that time I didn't know what was meditation, but she would teach me kind of some things and stuff like that. But I always call it like her cuckoo things, you know, that she does. And then kind of go to teenager things like 20s and don't believe in any kind of these things. So my first kind of approach was when me wanted to move to Spain to study, and a friend recommended me the book of The Secret. And I said, you know what, I will give it a go. And I started just putting in practice everything that is coming there. I feel the book of The Secret, it was very basic for what we had the knowledge for that time. Was, I think, to 2007 when I read it, you know, like really long time ago. And for that first introduction, I think is fine, but it leaves behind all the vibration law, like many things that need to accomplish with the book of The Secret, because at the end of the day, I don't think that book is enough, but it worked for me at the moment. But once again, I was just like, okay, the universe exists. This kind of happened. That's it. You know, that was more spiritual than I was. That was like, I can just manifest. You know, I can achieve my dreams, but that's it. You know, I cannot go further. But then I went traveling, and I was in the same mindset until somebody recommended me to go with someone to have a chart reading. So that was for me, like, I said, like, why is the reason for that? You know, like, basically this is like a picture that is taken to the sky in the moment that you're born, and depends of each planet, where is the planet located. Now we're going to astrology after passing past life. Now, wherever this planet is located at the exact moment that you're born, is like each that planet impregnate that energy on yourself. So we all know that the moon has their own energy. You know, you can see it when it's full moon. Even the ocean, kind of the tide of the ocean change. Like, some people are kind of more sensitive. I hear that in the I don't know how you call it, where people with mental issues, they're kind of locked in.
Yeah, mental asylum.
Yeah, exactly. Those ones in the full moon, they need to put more stuff because people can go a little bit more unstable. So basically, the moon has this effect. So each planet has an effect on ourselves. So basically, the birth chart, what it does is at the moment that you're born, you get a picture out of, like, from the sky, and that energy from whatever the planet was located in the universe is the energy that is impregnated in yourself and your life. So basically, if you want to know a little bit how is your life, how are yourselves, and what energy is evolving in your life, the birth chart is an amazing tool And that's why I love astrology so much, because for me it was important to understand myself and get to know myself in my healing process. So I went with this person. She explained me, this is your birth chart, and the birth chart, what it does is a map of your life. That's why we choose the moment that we're born, and we choose the time whether we're born, because we need that energy that we are picking for whatever plan in our life we did. So now we have our plan done, our life plan done, we choose when we need to born to get that energy to be able to accomplish whatever we need. So if you need to have in the present right now, know what energy you want to do, what kind of job you want to have, what is where you will have more success, what is more important for you, you go with someone that knows how to read a birth chart, and that will tell you everything. Every information is in your birth chart. It's really amazing once that you know that what the birth chart can do. So for me, that was my first kind of more stepping into spirituality, because I went with this person and she started kind of reading my birth chart, and I was amazed because I was like, I haven't told anything to this person, and she's kind of reading me completely here, you know. So I was like, okay, so maybe this astrology thing is not like a, because you always, I think so the approach that we all have in astrology, just whatever you read in a magazine, and it's just you're like, no, this is not for me. And then that's, I think so astrology has been like a prostitute in that way, that it's like so cheap that everybody think that that's astrology, when astrology is deeper than that. So then after that, I start kind of getting more interested about the spirituality things, but just in a very light situation. But once it is your awakening, and that's happening for, I think so, 95% of the people that have their awakening, like a proper awakening is like go to the dark night of the soul, that is called this period of time when everything starts going wrong in your life, that things start not working, that you go for a breakup, any kind of situation that kind of goes wrong. But usually the way that you get out of that situation is because for some reason someone brings you to spirituality. You know, in my case was having the need and want to have a lifetime regression, and that's why it opened all the floats for me for all the knowledge that I have. And basically that's exactly 1 year ago. You know, I was completely kind of more oblivious about all this until I have my dark night of the soul. I was after the trip, I came to a very heavy depression, and was very hard for me because I wasn't practicing, you know, all this kind of ask to the universe and be positive and stuff like that. I tried to be, but then suddenly I went to a very dark period in my life that, and for me, I was lucky that just last like a month and a half, 2 months. But the way that I try to get answers lead to spirituality, and that lead me to the rabbit hole of, you know, the Alice in Wonderland that you see to the rabbit hole, and I just fell to the rabbit hole, and it brought me to amazing world of possibilities and understanding way more. That bring me to learn about past lives, regressions, to angelotherapy, that is like working with angels, is bring me to astrology. So basically the last year I have been learning all that I can about this knowledge, about to understand life, because then after doing some Akashic record reading and some kind of trying to understand more my life, because I start having this need for wanting to know my life purpose, because I was like, okay, what I'm here to do, you know. And actually part of your life purpose as well comes in astrology, and you start wondering more these kind of things when you are in the age of between 27 and 30 years old, is when you have a change in your life. It's called the return of Saturn. But basically Saturn is the planet of the challenges, and it moves so slow that when it comes back to the point that is in your chart, it's in around when you are 30 years old after you're born. So it's when a lot of people kind of experience some change in their lives for whatever purpose that they want to learn in this life.
So this is like between 27 and 30 is when you realize kind of your most natural purpose or your calling.
yeah, it doesn't have to be spirituality, like, but whatever is like is when you start wanting to just exactly move more focus to your whatever you want to do.
Yeah, I guess you could say like spirituality is kind of like a background process for some people. Some people are thinking about it actively, but other people are just having these realizations and not thinking as to why it's happening. They're just going and acting on them. And like that's, it's the same thing. It's the alchemist who knows and the alchemist who doesn't. And it's like, yeah, I feel like around this stage of life is when a lot of people start working on, I guess, their like families or their career and stuff as well, 27 to 30. So, in that same way, that's kind of like what you're saying. It's like when you notice what your purpose is, it could be something like being an amazing parent. It could be you actually have this incredible uh, information about spirituality that you now need to share. Or, it could manifest itself in the way of you make a podcast where you get inspirational people on to come and talk, and like thinking about my own life in the last 3 years, it's like my brain has been completely switched on and focused on to like, what can I do and what do I do best and how can I use that to help people? That's literally been like my last 3 years. So it can make a lot of sense.
How old are you?
I'm 29.
Exactly. You're in the part of the 27 and 30 mark.
Yeah, and it's all happening.
Exactly. So even if you want more guidance, you can check your birth chart, and then it will give you the guidance. Because when you find your middle heaven, that's the energy that you need to achieve whatever you have. Like that's your talent that you have for achieve what you want. When you want, that's what I like a lot about astrology, that when you want to work with this life and you want to understand why is happening, all that is happening to you, at the end of the day, like for example, I know that all that is happening to me, I choose it in my soul's plan, but if I want to understand it here, I don't remember anything of that. So the chart is a great indicator, and it's a great map that can tell you where you have to be leading.
Yeah, right. So to put that all together into one place, you weren't necessarily leaning towards spirituality for a long time in your life. Then you got a few inklings, a few people stepping in and being like, have you tried this? Like mum, for example, teaching you a few little things. You didn't really understand it or get why, but she showed you it. And then after some time, you started to notice it a little more. And then eventually you had, I guess, what you called the dark night of the soul. And as we know, from the saying, like it's often darkest at night just before the dawn when all the light starts rushing in. So you have the dark night of the soul. You have all of this sudden light start rushing in after essentially a rebirth, and you start, and light, is information. So you start receiving all this information all of a sudden after your dark night, and that has now just started to fill into and flood your life. And now, because of that, you've got a practice where you are becoming more and more spiritually minded. You're starting to share that information, and you're starting to encourage people to do so because it's had a very positive effect on your life. Correct?
Exactly. Yes. I really feel that my part of my life purpose is to kind of help and guide people. Like I really enjoy a lot when I can help someone to find their way. And doesn't need to be kind of a spirituality. Of course, I love if it's something involved to a spirituality, because I feel the ones that you remember who you are, like that you are like a being of light, that you are like a being of light and love, and that you understand that the main purpose of everything is to love yourself and to learn this experience. You start seeing everything like a learning experience. It's not right or wrong decisions at the end of the day. You just want to choose. You are just choosing what lesson I want to learn. If I want to learn the shorter lesson or the bigger lesson, and that's it.
Right. So the main purpose so far in life that you've found would be to love oneself. And as a result, as we know, that if you love yourself, then you have an enhanced ability to love others. And vice versa, right? Like if you send a lot of love to others, you actually end up loving yourself. Like it goes both ways. So you're reminding me of what Dan said in our last podcast. He has this idol. Have you ever heard of Paul Check before? Paul Check?
No.
He might be someone you might really enjoy reading about, but Dan has this idol, Paul Check, and we were talking briefly about parenting. And while we're talking about parenting, he said parenting can sometimes be a very frustrating moment. And he says that there's this question that Paul Check always asks, and it's, in this moment, what would love do? And you've kind of been briefly talking about that the whole time. It keeps reminding me of what Dan said about what Paul Check said. When you're having any kind of situation, regardless whether it's a good one or a bad one, asking yourself that question, what would love do? What choice would I make if I was making it from a position of love? Is that something that you kind of do as well?
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's like I guess more what kind of contribute. I don't know how you call it. Contribute, like what will give
Contribute.
more? Yeah, contribute to in my life and contribute to others. For me, that one is always really, really important. And try to be. I actually thought like a really good example of it. I don't know if you have seen the TV show, the Ted Lasso.
The what?
The TV show Ted Lasso is a series.
No, I haven't.
It's in Apple TV. I think so. He's the perfect example of when you're like in this good energy, that even when people want to kind of don't have your best interest, with just being yourself, you can change everything around you. And at the end of the day, we cannot change anyone. I cannot just go and tell you have to change this. The only thing that we can do is change ourselves.
Yeah.
And that could inspire to other ones to change.
Yeah.
And that's how you start kind of making a bigger conscious for the rest of the people.
Yeah. Instantly, it's making me think about this thing in like relationship therapy, where like people get stuck in loops because one person's doing one thing and that causes the other person to do something, and then what they're doing causes the other person to do something. And the only way out of that is self-assessment, reflection, and actually changing what you do, because the only way to change the loop of your relationship with anything is to actually just change how you are in the loop, and then naturally everything else like changes as well. So I guess what you're saying is it's important to be aware of your thoughts and prejudices and whatever it may be, however you're acting and thinking, like what Eckhart Tolle taught you in The Secret. And then once you've done that, to engage in changing how you are over time, and then eventually looking at how you can love yourself more and hence others more. Right?
Yeah, and actually just want to make clear here that The Secret was just really a starting. It was just my starting point. I feel right now is exactly what is books that are more complete, are more like stronger to help you in this mindset that is like good life, good vibe, good life. I think so. That one was the one that showed you about the importance of the vibration and how you waste your energy. And the other one
book is called like, Good Vibe, Good Life.
Yeah, Good Vibe, Good Life from Vex King, I think so.
Okay.
And the other one is Being You, Changing the World. I think so. That one is Access Consciousness. That is kind of the more modern now. That is the questions one. Is
Be You, Change the World.
Yeah.
Okay.
That one I feel has been one of the change me, and Magic from The Secret as well was really good, because that one teach you the importance of gratitude. I think so. Yeah. It's other one that gratitude is the base for everything. Be patient. You learn to accept that you are fine where you are. You learn that things will get better. It really gratitude evolves, like is the base to start in this spirituality way. And if the universe is sending you signs, like suddenly, you start feeling the sign that suddenly people that you don't know start coming with you about these kind of topics, and you kind of start detecting this kind of where it's maybe the universe trying to show you, is your time for awakening. Maybe it's not for everyone, but right now, I think so we are in a time that a lot of people are being awakened, because we're trying to kind of erase the vibration of the consciousness about in the planet, because I think so is needed. And so if you're feeling this call and things are going kind of not in the best way, just understand that things will get better if you put the work.
Okay. Things will get better if you put the work in.
Yes.
Okay. Now, I know that we are running low on time as you have to be out and about very soon. Do you think you have time to answer the question left for you by Dan?
Oh, yeah, of course.
So
could you repeat my question? Yeah.
Our last guest, Dan, left this question. And I think we've kind of answered it in some ways, but perhaps just to summarize it. Everyone experiences stress and fear, whether it's in your work or relationships with yourself or others. So how do you manage and overcome different stresses in your life? What tools do you use?
So basically, it's first reminded about remember who I am, remember how I had difficult situations and I have been okay. And just if it's a stressful situation, sometimes our brain goes to the worst scenario because want to prepare. That's kind of anxiety. So it's kind of catch these thoughts and say, you know what, stay present and see, okay, even if it happens the worst scenario, I cannot control the worst scenario, but I can control what I'm going to do. And I do trust in yourself. You are capable. You know that even if the worst scenario happens, you will be okay.
Okay, great answer. So your tools are kind of like relying on your past experiences to remind yourself that even though it was difficult, that it would soon pass. That's one of the main ones, right?
Exactly. The other day, even like hard situations will pass. And sometimes we cannot control those hard situations because they are outside of our control. But if you remember who you are, that you are thanks for the situation, even if it's negative, is when you have to give more thanks because you are changing the vibration of that situation. You know, you are changing this. But even if you have a fight with your husband, you have a fight with your boss, just go inside, deep breath, and send them like a lot of light, a lot of love, and say like ask them to like a blessing. Say, you know what, the energy is changing, everything will be okay, and you send them love instead of anger. Next time that you get closer to talk again, they will be in a lot more receptive way. You know, right. So sometimes we stress for things, and we cannot control those things, but we can control our vibration. We can control the way we approach the situation.
So your whole thing is kind of like transmuting the energy from something negative into something positive. You're like the receptacle of whatever energy it is, and you change it to the outcome that you want. Loving, positive.
Exactly, because
joyous.
And I think so. That's a great power that if you learn to become an alchemist, and learn to change that energy, then you can achieve a lot of things.
There you go. And that's the way I understand alchemy as well. It's taking one thing and turning it into another, taking basic metals and turning it into gold, the great work of the alchemists. Do you have a question to leave for the next guest? Because that is how we typically finish up these interviews. So have you thought of one to leave for the next person? And to be honest, funnily enough,
yes.
it could almost be you, because we haven't quite finished talking about everything we planned to.
I know, exactly. We have talked a lot.
Yeah. We just end up talking about spirituality the whole
thinking
time.
About talking a lot more topics. Exactly. This is just a spirituality, but we could talk a lot more. But my next question will be: what advice would you give to your past self?
What advice would you give to your past self? Okay, there we have it. All right. Well, I just wanted to say thank you so much for sparing your time and sharing your information. I hope in some way that coming onto the show has been a way for you to pass this information on and help you on your journey, because I know that you care deeply about your journey that you're on now and sharing this information. So I hope to share it with as many people as possible. I really appreciate you coming on here, and having met you, it's been a great chance to learn much more about spirituality. I certainly had some realizations today while we were talking, and you are incredibly knowledgeable about spirituality. I didn't know the extent to which you understood it, and in just sort of this year after your dark night, you've learned more than most people would in their entire lifetime. So thank you for sharing that, and I hope to have you back on to Between Views soon, because we still have much more to talk about.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for having me. I really, really enjoy it. And hopefully this information, because we were very open about talking trips, or let's see where it leads. But I think so at the end of the day, right now in my life, everything has been leading, even if I don't want to, it kind of always ended up leading to spirituality. I think so it's important that if this message can help to someone that is listening to your podcast and make them realize, you know what, I have to see how I can change the situation, how I can improve it. I'm feeling down, but it will get better. If we can help someone, that's kind of, I think, so the most important part. And yeah, I will be happy to come back with other topics that are not the spirituality, that could be a little bit controversial as well. But yeah, I'm extremely happy to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me. I know that the time zones can be sometimes difficult, but yeah. I really enjoy it a lot.
Yeah. Well, look, I'll make sure I know exactly how far away 17 hours is next time. And I'll make sure that I'm not just waking up just before the podcast. But thank you so much for coming on. And I hope you have a lovely day. And let's stay in touch, because we'll have to do this again.
Perfect. I'm very happy. Thank you so much.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Nash. And I'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to part 4 and our final part of our interview with Nash. If you enjoyed what you heard, please jump over to thinking.nash and give her a follow. Also, I'd love to take a moment to let you know that 79% of listeners who listen regularly have taken the time to follow us on Spotify or YouTube. If you listen regularly and want to hear more episodes, then please help us out by subscribing, and we can continue to bring you more episodes. Remember to like or share with a friend if it reminds you of them, and leave a review in the section below. Or if you found the information valuable, then you're welcome to purchase me a scrumptious cup of Make More podcast juice at buymeacoffee.com/betweenviews. I just want to give a shout out to our first supporter, MX, who shouted Between Views 3 coffees. Thank you so much. Finally, if you know someone who deserves to be interviewed, or just have some feedback, then send us an email at betweenviewsbv@gmail.com or message us on Instagram. Final thing is, currently Between Views is looking for collaborators who would like to add their podcast to the Between Views stream. If this is you, once again, reach out to betweenviewsbv@gmail.com. Thanks again, and see you soon. Between Views.